Because Homer's The Odyssey is currently in the cultural zeitgeist due to the release and hype behind Christopher Nolan's take on the story, I thought for today's edition of Silent Sunday I would talk about one of the earliest adaptations of that story. La Odissea is an Italian take on Homer's story. It is only 43 minutes long, so don't expect it to be a grandiose epic similar to Nolan's version. But it is an epic in its own right, especially when you realize how new movies were at that time. The film is in the public domain, and you can watch it on YouTube. The picture cost $200,000 to make back in 1911. That translates to roughly $7 million today in 2026. And for film being such an unknown quantity back then, this was probably a big gamble if I had to guess. The film had three directors from what I understand: Francesco Bertolini, Adolfo Padovan, and Giuseppe Di Liguro. Please forgive my horrible pronunciation. I am starting those Italian classes next week. This version of the Odyssey is a greatest hits version of the tale. It doesn't have any dialogue, obviously because it's a silent film, but there are no cards with dialogue on them like some silent films have. All the cards dictate in this picture are what is happening and what Odysseus is doing. It hits almost all of the high points of his journey. The sequence with the Cyclops in the cave is really great in this version. Since effects like we know today didn't exist then, from what I understand, the filmmakers dressed up a person to have the appearance of a Cyclops. They used forced perspectives and double exposures to make the Cyclops look like he was like 30 feet tall. I don't know the exact height, but he looked huge in this film, and have him be in the same shot with normal sized men. It is amazing technical work and gives the film an epic feel no matter how old it is. They blind his eye, but just like Nolan's version, they don't trick the Cyclops with the nobody comment like they do in the story. This is a weakness of the Nolan film, but not for the silent version, because the old silent version would have needed to create multiple Cyclopses for this sequence to work in a visual format from 115 years ago. I hold it against Nolan's version because he had the money and technology to do it. I love the way this silent picture signifies day, night, and lighting. They use blue for night and yellow in the indoor sequences, as well as certain day ones. When Odysseus meets the fury of Zeus, the picture is completely red from the storm to signify the terror all the people on his boat are going through. The screen becomes green at the island of Calypso, representing the tropical and luscious nature of the area he spends the next 7 years in. Obviously, since this film is so short, you only see the sequences with Calypso for a couple of minutes. The green coloring and wonderful cinematography surrounding beautiful plants and flower gardens does an amazing job of conveying the world Calypso built here. The sequence of the sirens and the Strait of Scala, I think, are handled better in the silent version personally. The facial acting is done better in Nolan's version because of the sound design when all the soldiers' ears are plugged and Odysseus is tied to the ship. But you get to see more of the sirens in the silent version, and same with the monster of Scala. It looks a little goofy because you only see its head popping out of a chasm, clearly because of budgetary and time frame reasons. But they look menacing and fun in a slight campy way. The stuff with Penelope and the suitors is only briefly mentioned about 5 minutes in, then not brought back up again until the final battle. As I said, this is a greatest hits version of the Odyssey, and I view it more academically with its story construction. It's essentially a Cliff Notes version of the story. I wonder, was this shown in schools during, say, the 40s and 50s? I'd like to know because even though this film is very epic for its time, it does have a sort of scholastic vibe to it. That's not a criticism, that's just how I see it. Telemachus is barely in the film as well, but when Odysseus returns home, the silent version succeeds where I think Nolan's version did not. In Nolan's version, he just masks himself as a beggar and reveals himself with the bowstringing sequence. In the silent version, Athena changes him into a beggar so the suitors won't recognize him. His true identity is only revealed to Telemachus, and that rings home the theme of love and family extremely well, even if it is an abridged version because of the film's short length. The last fight scene of the film is fine for 1911, but it does look a little silly through modern eyeballs. That's where Nolan's version excels, not just because of technology, but also because of the tension that builds before the final battle. I really like this silent version of the Odyssey a lot, and while I have issues with Nolan's version, I enjoyed that as well. This is just a story all of us know and all of us love, and I think this is a great companion piece to Nolan's film. I recommend trying to make this some sort of double feature where you watch them either back to back or very close together. This movie is good all by itself and stands alone, so if you just want to watch it as a silent film, I recommend it based on just that as well. Silent films don't get as much love as they deserve, and that's why I started this series of Silent Sunday 2 years ago, to remind people of these films were not stopgaps until talkies came in. They are good and classic movies just by themselves. please check out this silent classic. I give the Italian The Odyssey 1911 3.5 stars. And that is my review. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, please like and subscribe. Here's links to my other videos. Follow me on social media if you like. And until next time, I am Ghost.